Property Sector Charter Council says emerging developers must be empowered with skills, funding and expertise to run sustainable businesses in the sector. All of this emerged at the Department of Public Works' conference on abandoned and hijacked buildings currently underway in Durban, KwaZulu-Natal. The CEO of Private Property Sector Charter Council, Portia Tau-Sekati, speaks to Newzroom Afrika's Ntando Mnyandu.
As the conference gets underway, discussing all matters property and infrastructure development and management, we've seen a number of captains of industries coming close to sit around the table and discuss issues relating to abandoned buildings, hijacked buildings, but also the property sector as a business, But right now I'm joined by Ms. Portia Tau-Sekati, who's the CEO of Property Sector Charter Council. Ms. Portia, thank you very much for your time. You're here. You've heard that there are quite a number of buildings in the city of eThekwini that have been hijacked. Others have been abandoned. Mostly you'll find buildings that belong to private individuals, but also buildings belonging to the public sector. Okay, as the council, how are you viewing this sketch of hijacked buildings?
Look, the hijacked buildings, obviously, it has a big impact into our industry, and we all need to find solutions for this kind of solutions. And it's both private and public. In certain cases, you've got buildings that have been, they are private sector led, and so you find that the people have not paid whatever rates and taxes. The amount have bulked up to an extent that the person rather says, it's better off that I leave this place abandoned. And half of the time when we actually, I know in certain cases or in certain cities where we search for those people, they've left the country. And now that's where then obviously then the city can then apply to actually then take those buildings, and they will need to obviously then repurpose those buildings.
The government is looking at, leasing out certain buildings to private users who will maintain and obviously make profits. But the property sector is such a, a closed niche which demands a lot of capital at times. How do ordinary South Africans, previously disadvantaged, who wants to break into the market, take over these, unutilized buildings and repurpose them and then use them to generate money whilst assisting the government,
Correct. Actually, the private sector, when it comes to money part, that's actually a big barrier. So, I mean, if you're going to take a building of about 100 million, at the very least, when you are very good, they'll probably ask you for about 30% equity. That's 30 million. Not too many people will then have that 30 million under their pillow. So we also need to look at various solutions in which we can assist. So sometimes longer term. So normally under normal circumstances, there's 9 years, 11 months. But 9 years, 11 months is not enough for somebody who has absolutely anything, So they need it longer term. I know that when it comes to Treasury, that looks at a different process. Yes, look at that different process, but give them longer so that they can then start to refurbish. But when it comes to also funding, it's not just about I'm financing that person only. You look at this different aspect that you need to look at the jockey, and you also need to look at the player. When you go to bet on a horse, firstly you bet on a horse. The jockey that rides the horse needs to be a good jockey. The horse itself needs to be a good horse, but it also needs to be running in a very safe environment. So when we're talking about a jockey and a player, so the person needs to be very aware of or needs to be a property player. And when you look at the itself, when you say rather the jockey and the horse itself, which is the building, it needs to be a sound building pulled together. It also needs to be in a precinct that is also viable. Certain cases, private sector or funders can actually give you money, but only to find that the precinct in which the building is at, it's not conducive.